An Australia without rugby league is not Australia. Rugby league has been a fabric of our society for hundreds of years. It's people's escape, it's people's relaxation, and we need to do everything in order to continue that great tradition of rugby league.
It has been those Australians who have worked hard every day. They have their dreams, they have their aspirations. These are the quiet Australians who have won a great victory tonight.
Dennis Carnahan, how ironic on the week where Scott Morrison, who used to label us as quiet Australians and now says shock horror, we're all Melburnians, Stephen Ferris is not here to celebrate in that. The year in the week in which the St George Illawarra Dragons were described as the Harlem Globetrotters, therefore making...
Was there any irony in that description?
Well,
or was it actually...
It makes Randy Warringah the Washington Generals of the rugby league.
Pretty much.
Steve is not here to celebrate, but we've upgraded. We have Fox League Supremo Yvonne Sampson with us. Bonnie, how are you?
I'm so wonderful. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. How are you?
Very well.
And she's got the red and white on as well to celebrate the Dragons' victory, the Harlem Globetrotter-esque victory.
Clearly inspired by the Warriors' latest jersey.
So is this the plan? Is this the merger? The merger between the Warriors, the Steelers, and the Dragons? Is that the jersey?
It's what the people want. If we just hear it over and over, relocate the Dragons, put the Steelers over in Auckland. So this is probably the only thing I pulled out that was warm enough today. It's freezing today, but lovely to be on such a wonderful program. I always enjoy my invitations. And just on Scott Morrison, we were lucky enough to do a Super Saturday and caught his highly controversial cameo at Jubilee Oval, and I had Mel Meninga sitting beside me, and I said, Mel, you're in Canberra. Do you catch up with ScoMo much and talk about Paul Gallen highlights or anything? And he said, it's funny. He got an invitation. It was, would Malcolm Norman Meninga please? You are invited to the Prime Minister's office for a very important conversation. So Mel's got all dressed up and put his best Kangaroos training kit on and walked into Parliament House. And he said, Prime Minister, Mel, how can I help you? And he goes, sit down, Mel. Now, how are we going to select this Prime Minister's 13? And ScoMo had listed, this is not a lie, ScoMo had listed 1 to 17, his Prime Minister's team to tour. It's unbelievable.
Well, he famously got on the Oval, didn't he? He was running the water, and I...
Barefoot.
We got to, in a different life on a different network, I think I got to interview Mel about that, and I think it was like ScoMo wasn't asked. He just sort of osmotically ended up on the pitch, running the water.
Yes.
Didn't have accreditation to do so. Didn't have field of play credits. It's like, I'm the Prime Minister, I'm coming on, I'm just going to run the water.
And started talking to the boys about their A and B defender. It was just so inappropriate, I thought. And look, I understand the controversy with our Prime Minister during the bushfires. I think it was a bad look, particularly as his advisors are intimating that he was in Afghanistan on secret Prime Minister's business. But I'm kind of with him. I mean, Marika Hardy, the writer, tweeted, I am a writer, I am without words, showing the picture of ScoMo twirling the scarf. And I tweeted back, well, I'm not a writer, but I'm also without words because I don't know how you can describe the appropriate way that anyone has the right to watch their team absolutely get punished because of their shocking defence. There are no words to describe that Sharks defence on Saturday.
Oh, the pink wave that overcame them was beautiful. I wish I was there and I couldn't, because of where we were sitting, I couldn't actually see ScoMo. I would have loved to have seen that face. His face, that photo where he looks like the saddest face in rugby league. There's only one, the downturned smile, the saddest face in rugby league. Who am I talking about? Dean Pay. There is no sadder face. There are faces that are angrier. There are faces that have more pain, but that's the saddest face. ScoMo became the second saddest face.
It's actually the emoji. It's the sad emoji.
Yeah, it is. It's so upturned. It's unbelievable how he does it. The facial flexibility to get that.
And I would have thought it was news coming through about Eden Monero or something like that. It's funny you mentioned Dean Pay because I feel we're right in the middle of an NRL fire sale this week on the Quiet Australians. I mean, everything must go. First of all, Luke Brooks apparently dropped by the Tigers. How about that bombshell?
Does that mean they've brought in Benji?
Oh, Benji was a lock after Josh went, but Billy Walters.
Billy Walters.
Tipped
to go to the Raiders.
Yeah. But the big news is today, Dean Pay has walked, not tapped on the shoulder of his own volition. How do we feel about this?
Well, someone had to do something. So, good on him. And again, just making him the saddest man in rugby league, and another excuse to show the picture of the saddest man in rugby league, and the Bulldogs basket case. What's he got? And they're talking about giving him Trent Barrett, as a coach who did such a good job at Manly. And do the Bulldogs have their own plastic chairs?
Well, there has to be a furniture clause written into the contract for T-Baz, right?
Oh, yeah, I was worried about the outdoor furniture. That was my first concern. Poor Dean Pay, I'm not sure what they expected of him. If we can be serious for a moment, the salary cap was ruined from the get-go. He had 2 players stood down for a pretty unsavoury sexcapade with some schoolgirls. He's had Kieran Foran, who's hardly played at all for the last couple of years. He's had no stock, no roster. The internal fighting at Canterbury Bankstown is just ongoing. The alliances, they run deep. And then I guess when they brought back Dean Pay, remember they were going on and on about this Bulldogs DNA and restore the family club. And Lynn Anderson sent out an open letter to all the members saying we're going to once again make the blue and whites the most respected and marketable sporting brand in Australia. And, poor old Dean Pay now, he's just been booted out. And well, look, he ended up leaving, but they said your services won't be needed after this season. Would you stay if you knew that they were already looking for your replacement? Would you stick out the rest of the season?
Depends how much money they were offering me to do the noble thing and walk out straight away. So the talk was, he'll last it because a la Mary, as when he was being grilled by Hoops after another St George loss to, ironically, Canterbury, he goes, I'm not a quitter. And so the whole thing is Dean Pay's no quitter. But they said because he won't quit because he won't get his pay. But surely, no pun intended, surely that's what happened. I would have thought. And there's no joy, I think, in the job. And I mean, how sad would it have been as he was driving out the car park? Corey Harawira-Nair and Jade Knockenborough are arriving for a meeting with the Bulldogs.
Are they actually back? So they're back in the NRL, but are they back at the Dogs? I thought the Dogs ditched the contracts. I thought that, so they're now basically free.
The Dogs stood them down too.
No, the
I
option.
thought the Dogs stood them down.
Yeah. So it's getting technical, but deregistration is different from having your contract torn up. And the Bulldogs, there is a scenario where they untear the contracts now that they're re-registered.
Get the sticky tape out.
I mean, it's against physics, but look, I feel very badly for Dean Pay, and of course Trent Barrett. I mean, hiding to nothing. I mean, it used to be, as you said, Bonnie, the family club, but it was described today, dare I say, as a toxic culture. So,
no.
I mean, good luck to T-Baz. What about the NRL itself? I mean, no greater authority than Gus Gould has waded into the pandemic because things are getting a bit away from us. You guys aren't from Liverpool or Campbelltown right at the minute, I hope?
Well, I haven't been from Campbelltown. I was in Campbelltown. I was last in Campbelltown. There it is. That was June 21, which was the last game at Campbelltown. So I think I'm clear. That predates the Robert Johnson going to the Crossroads to discover the Devil and the Blues.
Yep.
So I believe I'm safe. The Devil didn't see me there.
You good, Vonnie?
Yes, I'm not allowed out of the studio. I'm what at Fox we call ourselves, because there's an A and a B crew, and they have inside cats and outside cats, and we are the inside studio cats who aren't allowed to go outside.
So which is the A and which is the B? Is A inside or outside?
I think the B. A is inside, B is game day people, roaming cats out prowling around and having fun. We're the sad little kitties in the corner.
Okay, so this worries me. So where does Buzz Rothfield fit into that? Is he an inside cat or an outside cat? Because he's in your studio, isn't
he? Well, yes, because he's a Telegraph import, so yes, Buzz has to do his own thing. But I think it's to try and stop us all working with different, cross-contaminating, cross-pollinating with
cross-fertilising. Yep.
Yes, correct.
Nobody wants that.
We saw what happened in the hotels down in Melbourne. Yes,
exactly. Because he is, if he was an inside cat in category A, how would that go with him being Telegraph editor at large? Because you've got an inside cat that can't be at large, but by definition, he's at large. And has he been spayed? Has he been neutered?
Wow.
And is he walking around? Is he walking around the studio just spraying everywhere to mark his territory?
The concern about Buzz being editor at large is the Telegraph won't give him a desk, right? So you're not sitting anywhere here. So by him being at large, you're entitled to roam. And we always feel he's just. He likes to always point out that he, sits in the crowd in the old days and sort of taps out the stories, including the 2016 Premiership. I don't want to give away ideas for free, but I mean, they're looking to try and get some revenue from that Cats movie because let's face it, it was a disaster. I mean, Idris Elba and Judi Dench are in, full-time therapy as a result of being in that movie, and Taylor Swift the same. But maybe something with the Fox League personalities superimposed, it could be a run.
Definitely. No idea is a bad idea at the moment.
Right. We'll definitely come to some of the bad ideas you've had during the lockdown a little bit later, Bonnie. But I'm just looking over to my right here. But anyway, the word is, should it get out of control? Crossroads Hotel, pandemic, ... The NRL is ready to uproot everything and head lock, stock and barrel to your home state, Bonnie, Queensland. Gus Gould last night said they're ready to go. If the borders shut again and we're in lockdown again, Peter V'landys, the overlord, will pick up the teams and move them to Queensland or anywhere else he has to do to keep the competition going. He will do everything and anything he can to play. They've got it prepared. They're ready. Planes are at the ready. So there's
plural.
Planes, plural. So he's been talking about getting the jet, right? And he's also been talking about no assets in the NRL. And we thought, well, here's the classic thing. He'll convince the NRL to buy a jet. He'll go, there's the asset. It'll be distressed because, let's face it, the NRL's going broke as we speak. He'll acquire the jet at no cost, and then he's got his own private jet. But this is now a bigger play. I mean...
It's clearly, we talked about Vonnie being the big V at Fox Sports and V'landys being the big V nationally. And there is currently for sale, I think the head office in Queensland, an airline with a big V, not the V-jet of Ansett or Qantas, but in fact, Virgin.
You wouldn't even have to customise it, would it? You've got the V on the table and you're away.
It's only the small letters urgent, just take off a little apostrophe Landis.
Yeah.
And you've got the whole thing.
Air V'landys.
He said, Gus knows everything, and he said planes are at the ready. This is all it's ready to go.
What do you think the in-flight movies would be on Air V'landys?
Ooh.
I mean, Zorba the Greek would be Anthony Quinn would be a lay down Misere.
Oh, Seabiscuit, the big...
The Godfather.
Yeah.
The Godfather, parts 1, 2, 3. In fact, they'd circumnavigate Australia. The flight from Sydney to Brisbane, they'd go right around, so you get all three.
The 1931 Lugosi Dracula. If you've ever heard Peter V'landys go, I don't drink wine, you'll know what I mean. How do you see... I mean, obviously... I think Sunshine Coast is close to your heart, Bonnie, and we've got the Storms located there now. We've got the Titans, we've got the Broncos. Yep. Where are we going to put Dennis's Raiders? I mean, Roma, what? Rocky, where are we going?
Do you know what? This goes back to one of those zany ideas we were all bantering about during lockdown. It's called NRL Island.
Yes. Oh,
it's
we're back.
Tangaluma Island.
Yes.
We're back. Let's go to Tangaluma Island. And I spoke to the owner of the island. The resort is ready to go. They're going to convert the airstrip into training fields.
Beautiful.
You get your ferries across from Tangaluma, straight across, and it dovetails you, directly into Suncorp Stadium. And you get to feed the dolphins at 6 o'clock every night. They come in, you get to pat them. I just can't imagine anywhere else that you would rather be. Like the UFC's done it very successfully. They've got UFC Island off Abu Dhabi. Why can't we have NRL Island?
Except they're eating the dolphins. That's the only difference. And you could update that. You could update that heartwarming vision of Gordon Tallis with the Dolphins that gets a bit of a run on the Matty John show from time to time. What about the FIFO? What was the mining resort, like Pleasantville or something that they were?
Not Collinsville.
There was the mining deal they were talking about. Where,
it was outside of Gladstone.
Calliope.
Calliope.
Yeah, that was Kenty that couldn't say that. Was calling it calliope all the time. Calliope.
Can I just ask you where you are on one very important issue to us? Did you call it Project Apollo or Project Apollo? Where were you on that?
Apollo.
What are you saying different?
Apollo or Apollo? Apollo.
A lot of people were talking about Project Apollo.
No, Apollo.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Apollo.
Double L shortens the vowel of the O. It's Apollo. It has to be. No question of it.
I just want to leave you. Sorry, go.
It's a Greek word, isn't it? Apollo.
Yeah, sun god. I just want to leave you with one thought about Peter V'landys. He was spotted having his hair cut by Alana at headquarters, HEADQUARTERZ.
Ooh, that's why it looks so slick.
Salon at Glaysville last weekend. Can you imagine walking into a salon and just going, give me a V'landys? What would that be like?
Well, V'landys, there's a wonderful bit of footage of V'landys from the 90s when he was just a young buck at New South Wales Racing. And he was complaining, and the jockeys were getting very unfairly paid for their weekend work. And he was taking it to arbitration, saying they should be getting paid more. And he's walked out of court. And this is, you talk about the Godfather, but this is the young Don walking out, and the hair is flowing. It's beyond mullet, like it's long and flowing back. The forehead is prominent and it flows, and he gives it a shake, and there's Vidal Sassoon all through it. It's a magnificent mane. It's wonderful.
So do you think the buying the airline is compensating for the loss of the mane, or what?
I don't think he's lost the mane. I think that's a choice that he's taken. Now that he is the Don, he's had to slick it back.
I used to get my hair cut near Glaysville in Huntersville by a place. The guy was called Francois. So I don't know. I wonder where Francois is now. Look, I tell you who else is going. Players are exiting the NRL like you wouldn't believe. Jake Averillo, whose parents went to the Crossroads Hotel for the Canterbury Bulldogs in isolation.
Did they meet the devil? How's Jake Averillo's father's guitar playing at the moment? Is he suddenly... Have we got the lost Jake Averillo's dad?
It's an obvious song idea, Dennis. Do you know the way to Amarillo? Have you seen Jake Averillo? It's very fertile. Something close to my heart, West Tigers next year, Stefano Utoikamanu. Play for 10 seconds on the weekend against the Newcastle Knights, which I started watching Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I don't know if you've watched that show.
No.
So she was a character. She was held hostage by a crazy priest underground for 15 years, right? And she got through... Was this in the Diocese of Melbourne, of Ballarat? That's right, yeah. It's basically called the Melbourne CBD, right?
Yeah.
And so they're in this underground bunker for 15 years, and she got through, she says, if I can get through the next 10 seconds... then I can get through the next 10 seconds. Well, that was Stefano's game on the weekend because he played for 10 seconds. I
saw him run on, and here he is. They've given him 10 seconds, and he gets the ball and takes a hit up. Now, at that point, there was 4 points in the game? So all he has to do is lose. There is nothing to gain. He's had one tackle of NRL. But imagine if he dropped that ball and then... Kalen Ponga runs length and scores and gets the win. So he's had 10 seconds of NRL and he's given away a game. There's a little bit of pressure.
But it was good 10 seconds because you got a lay and a lot of family, ruffling of the hair, and now he's in lockdown.
He's in quarantine for 2 weeks.
How complicated is it?
Well, his test has come back negative, so he's allowed back in. But as we know, everyone's just getting a little bit more concerned as COVID-19 starts to sprout all around our community. So the players have gone back into the bubble. They're not allowed to play golf. They're not allowed to go to the cafe. They're not allowed to go to the shops.
Not allowed to go to the beach.
They're not allowed to go to the beach. Not allowed to do anything. So, and they're only allowed to interact with those clean members of their family, those ones that have been cleared by the COVID cops at their 16 individual clubs. So, look, it is a very unusual situation. I did feel sorry for him because it was 10 seconds and it was like he'd won the grand final. It was doing, and then you saw the trainer try and pull him away and he was like, no, and then he went back and signed more fans and it was all happening. It was such a good moment for him. And we were like, oh no, what a terrible result. Here's what you should do, like the Ferrari from Forbes. Look how safely he is celebrating his 4 tries. And then it's a party at the Ferrari house.
In the garage, yeah.
So Charlie Staines on debut for the Penrith Panthers, right? On debut?
On debut.
4 tries.
Yes.
Not since Jordan Rankin, another former West Tiger. And of course, famously, those 5 mates from Forbes did the right thing, and they went to each end of the field so that they were there for the celebration shots.
They went to his wing at each end.
Each time.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he invited them, plus the family, plus his girlfriend's parents, and he's allowed 10 people in the house, but only 5 at a time, and he got that wrong. So he's out for 2 weeks. I mean, it's complicated.
Well, which plays into the Ferrari. He's had a run, now he's got to go to the garage, get tuned up again, get ready for the next one. And
the best part about that yarn is his dad's name is Shane Staines.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's up there with Shane Staines, and it's up there with Dave Dugan. I'm obsessed with NRL players' dads' names.
Imagine if Staines if Charlie had played a few years ago, and you get a run in between his dad, so Shane Staines fighting with Shane Haynes. Wouldn't that be Kevy? Good old Kevy Haynes, Shane Staines.
And I think I'm right in saying Dan Staines, another former Tiger,
the
and Origin player.
Yes,
the underpants,
yes.
No relation.
No relation. One of them has an E on their name.
That's right.
I think Charlie has an E.
Charlie does. And he's got lockjaw as well, just to finish off the week.
So when we say lockjaw, is this... did he get tetanus off someone? Is this... Because that's the...
I'm blaming those kids from Forbes. I'm telling you, saw them. I'm not sure that they've passed the hygienic protocols.
Is there rabid dogs, maybe? No, that's foaming, isn't it? Not lockjaw.
Is it still... Like, if you fell off your bike when you were a kid, tetanus shot straight away. Is that still the deal?
No, I don't think it does.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone cares about it anymore.
Yeah, I think we sort of locked...
And maybe it's because he's dived in for 4 tries. Something, he's got a little cut, a little bit of tetanus, and he's lockjaw.
I actually think he got lockjaw because he was smiling so much. He scored so many tries. He just couldn't get the smile off his face.
I do wonder, though, with the whole Ferrari thing and being garaged for 3 weeks and playing for a week, I do wonder if what's being fine-tuned is those eyebrows, because they are magnificent. They are beautifully manicured. They're very full. But they're clear, like the lines he keeps on them, they are like a sports car, like the detailing on a sports car.
It was the neatness was Kevin Naguama-like. Do you remember his eyebrows?
Oh, they were
beautiful.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
And his kid and play hairstyle.
I wouldn't mind having a little look at his...
Yes.
I wonder how his nails are.
Yeah. By the way, if Staines is a Ferrari, where does this leave Stephen Crichton? I mean, is he a Lamborghini or something? Because that guy looks like the perfect rugby league player to me. And handsome to boot.
Yeah, they love him.
Wow.
Yep, all the Fox boys, they all want to be boyfriends with him. They're obsessed with him at the moment. They
100%.
they love him.
We've got to get rid of scrums. They're going. They're for sale. Super League has got rid of them in England. There's talk of Volandis is wading into this as well as buying the airlines. Part of the concern and let's face it, don't you hate seeing media wars? I mean, I know, Vonnie, you would never deign to be in competition with your rival broadcasters, but the Telegraph and the Herald are going tooth and nail with their player polls. And the players, vis-a-vis the scrums, have said 39% of the players want penalties to be blown when players break the rules, which to me says 61% don't. But
yeah, correct.
Peter Volandis is to say, I know how to solve this. I'll get the refs to feed the scrums. I see no issue with that.
Oh, it's the worst idea possible. Can you imagine if as soon as Jerry Sutton puts his head down to feed the scrum, Cam Smith is at the back of the scrum. He's not going to be at hooker. He's going to be at the back of the scrum, and he's going to be casting spells, and there'll be lightning bolts, and there'll be all manner of evil. There'll be the stench of sulphur coming out. He'll be going nuts. That's what's going to happen because it means he has to have his eyes off the game. They're going to break early every single time. They're going to be offside every single time. I've always said, if the problem with the referees, people say the referee's a problem, and my dear Ricky is saying it's, the bunker's got to go. Everyone's saying there's all these problems. They wouldn't need referees if the players didn't cheat. So why do we say to the players, stop cheating? You're supposed to be role models. Wouldn't it be a better role model for society, for the kiddies, if instead of saying, here's a rule, I'm going to break it for my own advantage, that's cheating. They call it a professional foul. Breaking a rule for your advantage is cheating. If I go out in the street now and go, I don't want to stop at this red light, bugger the lot of you up there on Cleveland Street, I'm going straight through and you can all stop. I'm going to either get smacked by the truck that I'm going past, or I'm going to get done by the police. I can't do that I can't teach my son that this is okay, and yet he watches the footy and they're all cheating and they're calling it professional foul.
I'd hate to be your son, Dennis. And by the way, what you're talking about there, Buzz Rothfield describes as gamesmanship, and he thinks it's lovely.
No, it's cheating.
If you've raised the last issue in the fire sale, which I think is very important here, and Dennis, stay calm.
I can't.
The bunker. Off the back of Ashley Klein being proactive and putting Tamo in the bin in the Cronulla Panther game for not being square, and he was, and putting Aaron Woods into the bin for interfering with an offensive player going to play the ball, which he wasn't. And I love when Brandy Alexander said, I defend Aaron Woods' right to run back at whatever speed he chooses to in defence, which was clearly very slowly. We had a very, very unfortunate incident involving Bailey Simonson on Sunday night in the Raiders and the Storms. How did you see it, Bonnie?
Oh, look, it's funny, like watching. So on Saturday night we had Mal Meninga, and he's obviously got his Raiders heart on. He's always got the green heart underneath the Titans jersey. So he sees things the way a Cam Barron would. And then I've got Michael Ennis, who obviously works with the Raiders. So they were losing their minds even before it all went down. So they were rogueable, and every replay showed that Bailey only had eyes for the ball, and it's not been great for the bunker. And Mick got up and he shoved his chair, and because I bring little lollies,
did you video
like
that
every Saturday?
God, I love him even more.
Yeah,
the bloopers would be amazing.
I think
it's actually quite funny.
What really set it off though was that Cooper Cronk, who isn't a big fan of Canberra, likes to be superior over them. That's just Cooper being Cooper. And then you've got Brandy Alexander, hates the Raiders and always commentates again. When he's commentating, it's so biased. And I'm not making this up. He comes out comfortably and says, yeah, I do. I always have I don't have any green eyes. I don't see them. I don't like them. I just don't like them.
They were his great rivals in the early 90s.
And both of them were
I was going to say, this goes back to early 90s, yeah.
Well, when he was at his peak. Well, he's at his peak now. When he's at his peak as a player, but as a human, as a man, he's magnificent. But both of them were saying, that's so wrong. That shouldn't be a bin. That shouldn't even be a penalty. That's nothing. He's got eyes for the ball. And the main thing was his left hand was on the inside. With the tackle, when they're showing for a shoulder charge, you try and see is the arm wrapping around. They could have hit him with a shoulder charge because he wasn't, except there was no impact. He had his hand. I'm about to start raping Chris here and leaning across and demonstrating, but social protocols and distancing won't allow me to.
Plus the law.
Plus the law, but...
It was interesting. We thought we had the perfect combination. We had Steve Chitty, former referee, and Ben Galea, ex-player. I love the bloke, 2005 premiership. I won't hear a word against him, except they completely stuffed it up. And I think James Hooper on the Big League Wrap, your show, Vonnie, described it as that the refs are trying to split the atom. And I mean, getting video refs to split the atom is clearly not working for us. Does the bunker go?
No, do you know what? I really like the bunker. I know they get it wrong, but I've had a couple of turns in the bunker. Like, they invite you in, so it feels like you're going, yeah, I know, it's so fun. So you go in, and it looks like the NASA space station, like these doors go, and in you go, and behind you. And it's this circular, it feels like you're inside a spaceship.
How many are in there? So you've got the two decision makers, the ex-player and the ref.
Well, they've got sort of different pods set up, and so you've got, two down the front and two at the back, and doing replays, and someone, calling which camera, and they're looking at 16 different angles of it. And it's actually, like, when you look at the process, it's super fascinating, and you can get super nerdy on it, and it's really kind of good. So I like the bunker because I think it's just popular to bag it.
Yeah.
Because,
do they have different names for the pods? Do they have, so you've got there's obviously video operators at the start at one side. There's got to be who are just going through. There's got to be different hard drives which have different angles from the different cameras in HD, which they can do slow-mo on. So there's got to be an operator for that. There's got to be a librarian, someone who goes through it, who goes through the library to see and gets it all in sync. There's got to be... Then you've got the refs themselves. I'm assuming there's other people. So I'm picturing that at the very start... Central Control, Bengalea or Horse, he's sitting there going, video operators, is it go or no go? We have video operators are go. Librarian, go or no go for bunker launch. Is that what happens?
You'll make caps lock.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like an episode of Thunderbirds in there. It's pretty good.
Well,
I like it.
This is the problem, because famously, John and Alan from Thunderbirds each did 6-month stints up in Thunderbird 5. Though if you watch the show, it was only ever John who was up there. And do you think that the fact that the video refs, a la Steve Clark, Horst Maxwell, ... have to live in there for the entire football season, is that a mistake? I mean, should they let them go home?
Clarkie's going home. I know, they're going home.
And then
it does feel like a bit of a casino in there. You don't know what time of day it is. You know, there's loud carpet. You're confused. There's no natural light.
That's right. And conveniently, a few Queen of the Niles just on the way out. Because let's face it, the NRL's looking for revenue opportunities any way they can.
And is there with the videos, and they've got the decision being made, is there a live tote going on and Peter Verlander sitting there watching the odds to see who's going where, who's putting money on what? And could it have been that everyone's seen the replay, the hand on the inside by Bailey, and the market's just gone berserk with people putting money on no try. Let's fix them.
I know where Verlandis is flying the NRL to Queensland because he actually accepted a couple of bets when he said the chances of an NRL player getting COVID is 50,000 to 1, and he's very nervous right now. Look, just to put an underline on this and this NRL fire sale, if you've got young kiddies who happen to be listening to the show, and let's face it, why would you let them? But you might want to take them away now because Ricky Stewart, he's known to blow up, and listen to his volcanic reaction to the Bailey Simonson sin binning. Let's hear it from Ricky now.
Is that the most frustrating part of Rick? That it wasn't like it was an on-field call; it was reviewed by the bunker to get to that decision.
They got it wrong.
Well, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, those of sensitive ears. I mean, he's just gone crazy.
Absolutely.
That's got to be a $25,000 fine right there, hasn't it?
Look, I got to say, I'm having difficulty speaking about this. I'm having difficulty expressing my feelings about this. Do you mind if I go to a song?
Dennis, please.
Oh boy. Raiders and the Storm. Everything went wrong. Bailey Simonson shouldn't have been binned. Cameron's smarmy smile makes me wanna die. Raiders and the Storm. It piled on misery when Hodgson did his knee. Bailey's shoulders gone as well as Satan smiles in hell. Our chances took a hit, but Ricky doesn't give a shit. Raiders and the Storm. Raiders and the Storm. Raiders and the Storm. Oh.
Can I just say, thank heavens the Bailey Simonson thing didn't happen in a grand final.
Oh.
We'll be back after the break, and we want to hear what the pandemic's been like for Yvonne Sampson. We'll be back in a moment.
Like rugby league, how good is it?
Welcome back to Fire Up's Quite Australians. Chris Gale here with Dennis Carnahan. No Stephen Ferris. Thankfully, gratefully, spectacularly, Yvonne Sampson. It's great to have you on Fire Up's Quite Australians.
Oh, it's the best invitation I've had all week. Thanks, fellas.
It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, there's plenty of time. I mean, I tell you, if you get into business class on Air Volandis, I'd take it. I'd get out of being an inside cat and I'd go up where the action is, Tangalooma Island. It'll be incredible. Bonnie, I want to take you back to a very dark time in your life. I imagine it was around about early April, a production meeting in Fox League. You were asked to helm Fox League Live of a Friday. I mean, you got the A-team, you got Paul Kent and Brian Fletcher. You would have thought it was pretty good. But how dark was it? How serious? How concerned, defeated, and flattened were you that you had to make a decision to have Dennis Carnahan close your show every Friday?
Not at all. It was the best part, seriously. And it was a really depressing time. We, FaceTimes would all go awry, and we were like, well, what are we going to talk about? Is rugby league coming back? Are we going to have a competition at all this year? What mood is Kenty going to be in? How much has Fletch lost on the punt? These are all terrible, catastrophic questions. And then the only shining light each and every week was the wonderful musician genius that is Dennis Carnahan. And each week it was like just a shot of sunshine straight between the eyes for us, and it's exactly what we needed. So we were the lucky ones to have Dennis on.
I think that explains exactly how desperate times were.
And look, I thought it was fantastic work, and it was great for you to give a brother a bit of a break, because let's face it, he needs one. The only thing that upsets me is I still haven't seen the final version, the final one where you did
the
the
last
Johnny Cash song for Kenny. Because Dennis was really trying to ingratiate himself with Kenny. Like, he would actually freeze frame and
Kenty
see if
smiling.
he could get at least one frame of a smile.
It wasn't
out
that I
of
was trying to
Kenny.
ingratiate. It was just that was the greatest challenge. Look, what I want to do as an artist is make people smile. And Kenty is the greatest challenge. He's like the white whale.
Yeah.
He's the perfect wave to get a Kenty smile. And I got one. That's pretty much why I've retired.
But I would have thought you guys would have related, because he's definitely a music fan, right? He's obviously expressed his love for Johnny Cash, and there was an exchange last week on NRL 360 where there was an email from a Jolie Ramone. And Kenny goes to Ben Eichen, soon to be CEO of your Broncos, apparently.
Yes.
He goes,
yes,
are you sure
yes,
that's not
yes.
Joey Ramone? And Ben Eichen's
Ben had no idea.
nonplussed. Ben, no idea.
No idea.
Who Joey Ramone was.
It's like on the.
And Kenty's got some. He's actually got some beautiful guitars at what we like to call Kenty's Castle.
Oh boy!
So once you get to that portion of the after party and the guitar comes out, Kenty's quite good. So he would love to have you over, Dennis. Definitely as a VIPs. Straight out of the bridge, we hot-tail it into Kenty's Castle, and away you go.
Because there was an incident with the Twitter prank, like that. You got Jolie Ramone there texting in. There was an incident on the West Indies England game where Mike Atherton was just reading straight off Twitter, and he's gone, unbelievable scenes for Cockermouth Cricket Club. Now Cockermouth is the team which Ben Stokes played for, so it's a genuine thing. Unbelievable scenes for Cockermouth Cricket Club. With, I can't say it, Hugh Jardine bowling 6 for 9.
I don't know why that's funny, Dennis. I don't think that's funny at all.
So Hugh Jardine from Cockermouth. And Mike Atherton read this out. It's beautiful. Thank you, Mike.
I saw Johnny Ramone on the E.T. the Extraterrestrial ride in Orlando Universal Movie World once.
Oh, did E.T. have the mullet or was it the fishing haircut?
No, it was Joey Ramone. Johnny Ramone.
But you said there was only T. Was it Eddingshausen?
Oh, no, yeah, that's right. It was the Andrew Eddinghausen, the Extraterrestrial theme ride. Let me tell you, there was a couple of blue sections there.
Was it sponsored by Toyota and Shimano? You'd hope it would be. And flown by Ansett. Oh, hang on.
No nudity in the dressing rooms, though, which, remember, that very, very uncomfortable situation. Though, no, I wasn't going to make a joke.
Was he in tears? Was this post-2016 emotional, teary E.T.?
Can you imagine being on a theme ride and then the final scene is you go into a massive hologram of E.T. and Gal bawling their eyes
tears.
out?
Are you welling up already?
We have a listener, Bonnie. We have a listener, Bonnie, called Terry Ball, and he's doing a montage which we're progressively posting of crying in rugby league. So it started with Corey.
Well, it didn't start with Corey.
Well, no,
because Corey was the first one. And when Corey, like the Fox Sports commentators loved Corey's tears because they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of utter outrage and anger. And he wanted to bash someone. He wanted to eat him up. And he wasn't allowed to. And Brett White didn't mind a stink, but he knew that it was bad. So he was pulling Corey away. And Corey respected Brett White and was just bawling his eyes out because he was so angry. Whereas the next week is the crocodile tears of your Broncos, of pretending to be sad and getting a little cuddle from.
It was Adam Blair.
The Tigers
and
player.
Alex
Adam.
Glenn.
Yeah. And so Terry Bull has superimposed Corey giving Adam Blair and Alex Glenn a little cuddle, and he's now beautifully put in behind them, head thrown back in despair like a Botticelli angel looking up about to be sainted, Daly Cherry Evans. It's glorious. It's a wonderful.
It's really good. And
emotion in rugby league.
Rugby. The guy who does those great murals. The next one should be the NRL Weeping Wall.
Oh yes.
Oh,
how good
on the basilica of the new stadium.
Yes.
I saw Michelangelo's David a couple of years ago. I went to the Vatican, and that's a whole story in itself. But it looked a little bit tired and like
David's actually in Milan not Verona, Venice.
No.
David's in Venice.
Say?
You said Milan. You said you went to the Vatican.
Yeah, the Vatican. What's the Michelangelo on the roof?
Oh, the Sistine Chapel. The roof of the Sistine Chapel.
Okay.
David's the statue outside the. Is it the Uffizi?
No. Put the David statue outside Bank West, just because, and redid the Sistine Chapel.
Just sidetrack, if we were going to have a nude David, a rugby league David, who would it be? Who would be our...
Apart from Stephen Prime.
Nick Kotrick.
Nick Kotrick.
For sure.
Yeah.
You'd get that. Like, that's a magnificent... There's a wonderful picture of Nick Kotrick and Curtis Scott training together, and someone nasty has superimposed Nick Kotrick's head over Curtis Scott. It's a sliding doors moment. This Nick Kotrick never misses legs day. This Nick Kotrick never goes to legs day.
My reaction is based on my recollection of David's hair would be Brad Mackay. I mean, he's kind of got that perm.
You can't really tell the colour, though.
Yeah, that would be...
Yeah.
I mean...
Florence, at the Academy in Florence.
Florence, yes.
Firenze. With Google, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there'd have to be specification about period, right? Like, you couldn't just identify, I want to see this rugby league player naked without specifying which period of their career.
Ooh, okay.
Like, could it just be prime Sonny Bill? Like, are we doing, players in their prime?
That's your template right there.
Oh, you'd want
I think so.
2013. Yeah.
20-year-old...
Putting Maloney into the gap.
20-year-old Artie Beetson, someone put a picture of him online. He was a really good-looking man.
Mal Meninga springs to mind because you've got the connection there, Bonnie. And when you are speaking to Mal, can you just ask him how the sauce business is going? Because I know he brought out the range of Meninga condiments.
Do you know, because I went to the meat emporium and they were selling it, so I bought some, and then
was it any good?
I couldn't. It was delicious, but I couldn't find any again. So I actually thought about that the other day. I wonder if the sauce is still going around.
I wondered when you were mentioning before who was that Mel got an invite from the Prime Minister. I did wonder whether it was to say, Mel, get me the hell out here. How do you resign from politics, Mel? How do you get out of it?
He hates that. Yeah, I'm gone. He was 30 seconds in.
I'm
gone.
It wasn't even that. I'm done.
I'm
buggered. Yeah, 28 seconds. We play it as a sting quite often on Fire Up just to keep us honest, You got your choice between Mal clearing out players in that try for the Kangaroos or that, and you've got to go there. Look, during the period of the lockdown when you were doing those shows, any highlights? I mean, there was an exchange between Kenty and Mick Ennis that seems to stand out from memory.
Yeah, that sort of sprung out of nowhere. I don't know. And I think the professor superimposed me just wheeling myself out of the situation.
Can you just held your hands up to the camera? I was mentioning before the Charlie Staines fingernails. Did you get? You would have had a lot of time to do your nails in that discussion. You didn't get a chance to polish them up.
Both of them can talk. So yeah, they both did, and that was fine because I think at that point our show was 3 hours. I was like, keep going, keep going. You guys knock yourselves out. It's less than what we have to fill. But yeah, I mean that debate, and that was over Todd Greenberg. And Paul Kent obviously was pretty savage of Greenberg around that time, and Ennis felt like it was his right to defend him because it felt like at that point Todd didn't have many friends in rugby league, so Michael definitely. And you know what? With some of the reporting was pretty out there, I've got to say, in terms of we knew that Volandis was coming in and how much was Todd being told and how many meetings was he being kept out of and all that sort of stuff. So that was an early one. I guess, I don't know, I liked FaceTiming just the players and some of the older guys like Johnny Lewis, Phil Sigsworth. We had some great ones that you don't really get a chance in the cut and thrust of a premiership, and you're doing week in, week out games, 8 games a week, whatever, and you don't get a chance to relive some of all those incredible moments that made you fall in love with rugby league. So when we did all the Fox Classics, you just reminded yourself, you go, God damn, we've got a great game, and we've got some fantastic characters that have been involved over the years. So, yeah, for me, that was probably the best part. Just
very briefly to Mr. Greenberg as the extended family, we send our very best wishes. We always do that whenever we mention Todd on this show. I think our mate Albie Tallarico hit you up with some Jets footage, speaking of Phil Sigsworth.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
So I guess you had a format that was allowed to breathe somewhat. Would that be right?
We had whatever you wanted. No idea is a bad idea. So
well, except having Dennis on.
No, well, even Kenty, because we'd been to the bridge and there was this guy that does the Johnny Cash tribute. So we ended up dialing in him and just listening to a bit of Johnny Cash. It was honestly, it was wild. It was basically just radio in front of a camera, and I'm not sure who let us do that, but it got a bit loose. But I kind of enjoyed it, to be fair.
Do you look now when you're mediating between Hoops and Michael Ennis on Big League Rap and go, I miss those days? Is that how it is? Or
yeah, do you know, I do miss Kenty because I don't cross over with him now. So because he does Monday.
Is he an outside cat?
Yeah. Well, no, he's an inside cat, but we're different days, different crews. So yeah, it is funny. And do you know what? Like, because we've got some big huggers in Fox. Gordon Tallis is a big hugger.
Is he?
Steve Blocker-Roach, big hugger. We've got a floor manager, the mighty Tony Chalmers, TC, our best off-season recruit from Channel 9.
Yes, former Tiger.
He's a gigantic hugger. He's still limping around on an ankle that Wally Lewis broke, and still blaming Wally for that. Look, I've got to say, out of the whole lockdown situation, the huggers have been doing it the toughest.
Yeah,
because
the big bears,
Blocker's an outside cat. He's at the grounds, so he...
Blocky's an outside cat.
And
that's right.
I imagine. Do you have a lot of COVID cops inside Fox Sports stopping the huggers? And
they're not game enough to go get out of that, but we do have a. Actually, we're going to have to start them again. Before every shift, there was a COVID cop that would say, "Guys, this is what you're allowed to do. Don't touch this. Hand sanitizer here. Blah 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 blah." But yeah, we do have a few people sort of looking sideways because, look, at the end of the day, none of us want to get sent home. And, when you boil it down, even though we were lucky enough to still have, those Fox League live programs to show up to, the majority of the employees at Fox were sent home suspended without pay. So they went for a couple of months without a single cent going into their bank account. So, look, I know we joke about it, but we do try and make sure that we are not
going back there,
anything because we just can't afford to, and I don't know if many other businesses can either.
I think just to keep the spirits up, if you're feeling under pressure, if you sort of Billy Moore style, just yell out Tangaluma every now and then. Everyone will observe the protocol. Vonnie, you've been very generous with time. We want to do just a little bit of feedback on the other side of the break, but there is the most burning question in rugby league that we would love your perspective on, and that, of course, is the oven bell sound for the set restart. My mother, every time she hears it, thinks the kettle's boiled. I feel it's a cross between feedback from an Eddie Van Halen gig in 1981 and fingers going down a blackboard. Do you love it? Where do you sit on it?
Yeah, it does sound a bit like an oven bell now that you've said that.
That's the official NRL name for it. That's what it is. It's an oven bell.
Oh, it is an oven bell, right? Yep. Okay. Look, I don't mind it. I guess there are bigger things that give me the willies in rugby league, and that's certainly not one of them. I think sometimes the dog's trying to come into shot again.
Dog's most welcome.
When the rooster... No, he's not.
When Fox Sports play the Rooster Crow. Why?
Oh, no, they're doing
it. Why? Is that Nick Politis?
They're now doing it for every team. They've been caught on this. They're now doing a sound for every team.
What have they got for the Raiders? Just outrage.
Yeah. It's bizarre. It's bizarre because, when you're at IGA or Woolies or Coles, whatever, and the hot chooks are ready.
Yes.
When you go and you get the hot chook, and it goes, and it goes, and that's when the hot chooks are ready. So that's when everyone crowds around that little, Bay Marie or whatever it is to get your fresh hot chook. So when you hear that, I always think that I'm in the darn shopping centre doing my groceries.
When the Raiders score, and let's face it, doesn't happen that often these days, you just hear shuffling papers, Canberra bureaucats.
Oh, is that right? I'm thinking more. You get these. You get the Raiders members' gloves, and with the Viking clapper in them. That's what you need. That's what they should have. Yeah. How good is that?
So we're going to come back for one more break where we explore one of the age-old questions. What is the most evil entity in rugby league? You're on Fire Up's Quiet Australians.
And look at Gale. He stands there and at times he looks to be drifting off into planet Chris Gale.
Welcome back to Fire Up's Quiet Australians. Free of Stephen Ferris, the globe-trotting Dragons has just sent him into a rapture, and he's now in a hermetically sealed bubble, hoping to one day be, I guess, like you, Vonnie, an inside cat. That'd be terrific. Now, we are reaching out to the Fire Up community as they are, Bonnie, and exploring questions and examining issues. And we're getting answers. And one of the things by reaching out to the Fire Up community, Denis actually got off his butt and got us an answer. So we were wondering, when there was a set restart on the first tackle of a 7-tackle set, what happens? Have you thought about this conundrum at all?
Do they get 7 tackles again? If there's an infringement in the ruck on the first tackle of a 7-tackle set, do they get another 7 tackles, or is it just 6 to go, which means it's meaningless because they've already got 6 to go?
Oh, so you mean if they start at 0 again?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get a 7-tackle set. I don't know.
Well,
I think just 6 to go.
No.
6 to go?
No, it's not 6 to go. It's 0. In the case of a 6 again inverted commas, 6 again, close inverted commas, being conceded on a 0 tackle, the following tackle of the 6 again ruling will also be a 0 tackle. So if there's a 7-tackle set, it will actually be a 7-tackle set again.
And so it becomes an 8-tackle set. And,
yes.
And it's like one of those, dimension paintings.
Wow.
It'll go on forever. I mean, don't get me started about the set restart. No, don't get me started. Before we go into an examination of who's the most evil entity in rugby league at the moment, we just want to do an update on what we're now calling the Warren Smith Trophy. On the back of the Joey Leilua. And isn't it great to see the head high back at Bankwest Stadium with Tigers running around, be it Raiders or Penrith Panthers or South Sydney Rabbitohs. The head high is back in vogue, and Warren Smith, of course, tweeted that Joey Leiluna is the worst signing in the history of the NRL.
Did you say Joey Leiluna? Project Apollo,
possibly.
Joey Leiluna, it's all happening.
The Leiluna Lounge. That sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah, have a couple of cocktails at Lounge Leiluna. Just an update on some of the nominations, and we'll never resolve this, but Dave Ray himself, who admits that he retired playing rugby league after he left primary school, lists them off without saying to who they went. Justin Paw, Shane Shackleton, Tim Smith, Chris McQueen, Kate Snowden, who I see is playing again in a regional rugby league situation.
Where?
Yeah, for a regional team. Okay. He's been cleared from the medical condition that he had that retired him. And Russell Packer. Cam Short said Greg Smith, famously the NFL player who turned up at the Newcastle Knights.
And wasn't actually an NFL player?
No.
Yes.
No. To be distinguished from Manfred Moore, who famously once kicked the ball over King George V Stadium at Henson Park. Threw it over, I should say.
Threw it. So he was an actual NFL player. He played in a Super Bowl and 70 days later was playing in for the Jets.
I'm making these mistakes because I'm so rattled by having AFL players on Henson Park. I called Patrick Dangerfield, Rodney Dangerfield the other day, and Gary Ablett Jr. walked into my coffee shop the other day, and I actually called the authorities because Gladys has said no Victorians, and he's just walking with impunity around Surrey Hills. It's just out of control.
This is the Son of God.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're talking about the most evil people in rugby league, and you've got the Son of God playing for the murderers.
These are the worst signings in NRL history. Mick Ryan said Sean Johnson, the Sharks, because it pushed his boy Kyle Flanagan to the Roosters. Troy Maguire, who's a big friend of the show, nominates equally Matt Ballin and Jason Kalis from the Tigers because they played 3 games each. But this is the one that ages me, and it's actually not an NRL era signing, but this is my favourite nominee, and it came from Greg Cross. Do you guys remember Vince Farah?
No.
So Vince Farah played for the Cronulla Sharks in 1974. So the Cronulla Sharks had come off the 73, the Dockyard Brawl, lost the grand final. Tommy Bishop and Cliff Watson in their boots and all, great English rugby league players. Cliff was also an English rugby league player, but he wasn't great. And he was a prop forward, follically challenged, large and slow. And he played 18 games for the Sharks. And I went to school with Nick Farr-Jones, so I know the Farr-Jones boys. And they used to
doesn't like to drop that name either. Hates dropping that name.
Hey, let me tell you, I drop your name in public, Denis, nothing. Bonnie's, it's a different reaction. Really, what's she like? She seems so immediate,
horrible.
Yeah.
She's horrible.
Okay, nightmare. Like, it's just all for show.
Yeah.
And their version of Bulldog was Vince Farah. They just run into each other holding a ball.
Wow.
Now,
that's, worst signings. Remember, and we're talking about player polls earlier. I used to miss the most overrated because the players would vote.
Braithen Astor every year.
Yeah, it's so mean. mean? God, it's a decent troll if you voted most overrated. I don't know. What about Dave Taylor? He kind of did
the
not
Coltrane.
a great deal at the end. Yeah.
There's a void.
Jared Hayne at the Titans wasn't great.
But that was a cracker.
I mean, that's that's the black hole. That's your Bermuda Triangle. It's the Titans, right? Because you think of everybody who's gone to the Titans. I mean, has the peach kicked on? I mean, Bryce Cartwright did some nice things the other day. I know he's got some issues, but boy, it seems like the place to go. Actually, a friend of mine, Des Walsh, was telling me the other day, by the way, he's moved north of Burleigh Heads. And he says, because he sea changed the Gold Coast, he says people will now come visit him on the Gold Coast because he's north of Burleigh Heads. When he was south of Burleigh Heads, no one would touch him.
Oh, no, because that's too close to the Tweed.
Right.
Yeah.
This is why you got to pay $1.25 million to someone to go, because they give you a house south of Burleigh Heads, right?
Oh. Do you know, it's funny. Mal was saying that they were in talks with Luke Thompson, the St Helens Super League prop that's just debuted for the Bulldogs, and apparently he was pretty. he was pretty interested in going, and he looked at the Gold Coast and he loved it. But I was like, how did you not sell the glitter strip, the girls, the beaches, the lifestyle, and
the meter maids? They still had the meter maids.
Yeah, the meter maids. Warwick Kappa.
Oh, and the go karts. Warwick Kappa's go kart centre.
I don't want to name drop again. I've been on the Vomitron, no problem. I enjoyed the Vomitron. But I was Hayden James's Bucks party, and there were 28 of us, and we walked up to the entrance to Sin City nightclub, and the bouncer goes, how many are you, boys? And we go, 28, and he goes, come on in. I mean, the Gold Coast is the only place you can turn up with 28 men, and they want your money. They actually want you to come in. It was terrific.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it literally is Pirate Nation. I absolutely adore it.
Yeah.
So no, they unfortunately chose Belmore.
Yeah. Anyway.
Gold Coast.
Anyway, they're building something, I think, at the Gold Coast. Probably another resort. But so the most evil entity in rugby league, we don't want to confine it to a person. We talk a lot here about Cameron Smith as being that figure, right? We're calling it the Robert Johnson Trophy. You get a $100 voucher to the Crossroads Hotel at Kazula. And Smith, you think it's an open field. And again, he's putting his best foot forward on the weekend. So Jesse Bromwich, who did subsequently leave the field with a knee injury, there's a dropout and the Storms go, hang on, Jesse's getting his knees strapped. And let me tell you, it was like talking about Michelangelo. I mean, that trainer was doing great work. And he did leave the field subsequently, but there was another dropout, and Riley Jacks is getting strapped. And the referee goes, you're not getting another one over me here, Cameron. Riley's got to go to the back. And then Cameron was able to go and descriptively describe the difference between the two incidents and get the same time saving. It's genius.
Evil genius.
The word genius is used too much, but evil genius is never used enough. That is evil genius. It's evil genius, and the smile, I mentioned it in the song, the smile, the smarmy smile on his face as he sat there. And there's Grant Atkins, one of the, again, talking of eyebrows, beautifully knitted brow, quite noble in the brow, was saying, Cameron, he has to go. But he fell into it. He fell into the debate with Cam, and once you fall into the debate with Cam, he is yours. He's going to run rings around you. You cannot. You have to say, the only way is the Bill Harrigan way. Don't talk to me, just go. That's the only answer to Cam Smith. Cam, you're the captain of the team. You're wasting time to get breath. This is cheating. 10 minutes, don't talk to me, just go. I just thought it was nice to see Riley
Penalty in front of the post.
I thought it was nice to see Riley Jacks actually having an impact on the game, to be honest. But
gave him something to do.
So Bonnie, here's a couple of the nominees. Keen for your reaction. Justin of Earlwood says, hands down, it's got to be Uncle Nick Politis. You meet him at the Crossroads. You sell your rugby league soul for a spot in the team full of rep players, brown paper bag, and a city forward. And the greatest trick he's ever pulled is when the salary cap auditor comes. Hello, Ian Schubert, back in the day, he convinces him he doesn't exist. I don't accept this salary cap business with the Roosters. I just think it's terrific list management, isn't it?
Great businessman. Yep.
It's unbelievable. That's what it is. It is. They are the icon. And if they are not the benchmark of how you should be operating as a rugby league team, then you know what? Everyone needs to just stop whinging about the salary cap sombrero and just get on board.
It's nothing to do with the sombrero. It's all to do with the Kilimanjaro speech.
Oh, yes.
That's it.
Are you across the Robbo Kilimanjaro speech? We're running that thematically.
Tomorrow's game day.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Don't spend too much energy about thinking going to the top. We get there as a team. ... He gave that speech 4 times in the trip to Townsville, when they assembled at the airport, when they arrived at Queensland Bank Country Stadium. And the great thing about Robbo is he's so confident. You know, he's talking about tomorrow being the game day, and they're
Tomorrow's
up on a
game
mountain in sub-zero temperatures.
No excuses on game day.
They're playing in a tropical zone the same day against the North Queensland Cowboys, but he doesn't change the words. It's just the effect. The players just immediately understand. He doesn't have to repurpose
It's like
it.
they're a sleeper cell and this is their trigger.
By the way, did you hear that? This is why the Roosters are so good. It's the small stuff that they do sweat. So they had to get a nap in up there at Queensland Bank Country Stadium, or as you would like to refer to it, Dennis.
No, Townsville Stadium.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And they provided them with inflatable lilos in a corporate area to have a nap. But the Roosters were encouraged to bring a pillow from home, which I thought was great. So you've got something familiar. And less well covered was they also brought an additional personal item, which we revealed last Friday. Luke Keary had Big Ted's his teddy bear. Tupanua had his blankie. And James Tedesco, of course, hates the dark, so he brought his nightlight. Which... And of course,
was it one of those little glow worms?
Yeah.
The worms with the head that illuminates.
And you saw how the Roosters were off their game in the first half, right? That was because they got disrupted sleep because they couldn't get darkness in there because Tedesco wouldn't turn his nightlight off. James, will you get that light off? We're trying to sleep.
I can't sleep with it off.
We mentioned, and I can't quite say this properly, but Arthur Trust Me Broadser, who said Jake Friend is the most evil enemy in rugby league because more Jesus Christ pose. Please nail him in the position at some point than anybody else. Maybe the arm waving is just fanning the flames of hell.
Oh,
no,
I don't think I've noticed that.
Oh, he is up. He is up the whole time. I think he's actually the angel. He's up all the time.
He's inherited it from two. I think you can follow a lineage that goes Tuvi, Farah, Friend.
Yeah.
The wings go up.
Right.
The wings go up. I think he's got a tattoo of wings
Yep.
on the back, and he has his traps are so tight that it's actually his. You hear about resting bitch face. He's got such tight traps. They just pull up. And that's how when he gets home, when he's in the shower, he just walks around like this because it's so hard to pull him down.
Mary Jane Salir has nominated Gus Gould for being the niggliest niggle merchant hiding behind a somewhat aspirational speaker facade. You know, those Churchillian speeches. Now, listen, I happen to know Mary Jane Salir, and there's a word around Sydney basketball that she is one of the biggest back chatters to officials and so forth. Very disrespectful.
Goodness.
And I think it ill behooves her to be nominating such a great man as Gus Gould. Look to yourself, Mary Jane Salir, that's all I'm saying. Ian Jessup, this is talk about blast from the past. David Moffat when he was NRL COO.
Wow,
Do you remember those days?
That's going back.
Wow.
When was that?
Well, Moffat was pre-Smith.
So he was the tweenie.
Was it Whittaker into Moffat? Might have been Whittaker into Moffat.
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is from we've gone Come With Us and Gallop.
Yeah, no, sorry, it would have been...
It was pre-Gallop.
Moffat into Gallop. So I think it went Whittaker into Moffat,
Right.
into Gallop, into Smith, into Greenberg.
Into Greenberg.
Into...
Who? Peter Volandis.
Well, no.
Andrew
and
Abdo.
Abdo has been...
Andrew Abdo.
Abdo's he's been on the media today. I saw a picture of him. He's doing a press conference.
Is he a CEO IW? CEO in waiting? I don't know.
He's an interim CEO.
No, he is the CEO, isn't he?
Acting
I thought he was
CEO?
acting CEO.
Is he still acting?
Or,
Yeah.
or at least he's acting as
He's
a
acting.
CEO.
Acting as in, actor, puppet.
John
He's the
Roby.
puppet
John
CEO.
Roby said Jackson Hastings, and I said reasons, please. Gave me none. Sloppy research, John. Richard Yabsley, and I can't read out the whole message because it doesn't stop. He's gone Politis and Arco for their perpetual pillaging of West Magpies. We're going back to the 70s. Bullfrog Moore for stealing that point off Wests on the 6th of July, 1975, due to the Lubinskas affair. Now, do you guys know this story? So, Mick, I believe this has to do, and please let us know if I'm getting this wrong, but I think Mick Lubinskas came on as a reserve inappropriately, and I think the game might have been drawn, and instead of being stripped of the 2 premierships points, they were stripped of 1. Mick Lubinskas, who now has a bit to do with West and so forth, when he first debuted for Western Suburbs, it was the days of Rex Mossop calling the action and Barry Ross was on the sideline. And Rex said, Barry, I see young Mick Lubinskas has come on for Western Suburbs. I believe he's of Italian origin. And Barry said, no, Rex is from Wollongong. Yabsley, who's clearly a Stories, and Darcy Lawler, of course, the cheating grand final from the 1963 grand final. I stand with you on that. And just, Arthur Summons, wherever you are, you've been done a disservice. Jeff Boulos, West Tigers in general.
Wow.
His home team. As a lifelong West Tigers and Magpies fan, I believe the gates to all 9 of our home grounds should have the words of Dante's Inferno printed above as you walk in. Abandon hope. All you enter.
To hear.
It is so. You know, so bad that Mick Ennis taunted James Hoops on your show last weekend for the Tigers being in 9th again, and they were in 8th.
Yeah, I know. That's what I didn't want to speak up.
You
So
should
I
have.
was like, I'm probably wrong.
You should have.
Because I'd just done the ladder, and I thought, I swear to God, I think the Tigers are in 8. But you know what? It's not going to be the hill I die on with Michael Ennis. Like, you just got to let him go.
This is particularly harsh off the back of his recent isolation. But perhaps a bit pertinent. Terry Bull, who we've mentioned before with his great artwork, has nominated Aiden Tolman because of his soul-destroying 4th tackle hit-ups when you're 10 metres from the try line. Just stick forks in my eyes. And poor old Tolman coming out of trouble last weekend when he dropped the ball. That was really harsh against your Broncos, who are flying high, Vonnie. Is that right?
Putrid. The whole thing's putrid.
Yeah, well, it's a simple answer. Seabold had the answer. Drop Corey Oates, because clearly what's going wrong with the Broncos is the wing. So let's drop Corey Oates.
No.
Oh, boy.
Russell White's gone the easiest path. Cameron Smith, don't recognise him without his whistle. And finally, Glenn Smith, probably no relation, who says the only one who could give the Prince of Darkness a nudge is Greg Hartley for his
Hollywood
performance in the 1978 final series. And the Fibros and the Silvertails should be prescribed viewing for every HSC kiddie, I think. You know, just part of their English.
You know, that's what I watched during lockdown. The Fibros and the Silvertails.
How good.
I did, and I loved it again. It was amazing.
There's a beautiful story Johnny Gibbs tells of Hollywood Hartley the year after that, and they're playing, and there's a scrum, and Johnny Gibbs yells out to Hartley, whose feet is it? And Hartley goes, it's ours, mate.
Vonnie, have you got any parting thoughts before I leave you with an indelible image? Or we leave you with an indelible image?
Oh, is this an unsolicited image that you're sending through?
No, these are words. This is a word picture about scrums, just building off what Dennis. No, it's been a thrill for us to have you. You're always so welcome on Fire Up. We love what you do for the sport and the game and your contribution.
No,
and
thank you.
And you got us through some tough times there, you know, like... It was, well, it's particularly tough for me if I had to watch Dennis.
But clearly you didn't, because you turn it off because you haven't seen the Kenty song.
Well, it's Paul Kent that leaves us with perhaps the image, which is talking about feeding scrums. Whose feed is it? What would happen if... Can you imagine a referee feeding a scrum if this is what happened to them? So if Kenny wrote today, when the Kangaroos were wrapping up the 3rd test in 1990, Australian coach Bob Fulton sent a message to Steve Roach with 10 minutes left in the series. Time to square up, the trainer told Roach. For almost all the series, the Kangaroos had kept their cool while Great Britain tried to upset them with niggling tactics. British halfback Andy Gregory was lucky to escape manslaughter charges by the end. So as they walked to a final scrum, Roach looked at halfback, your boy Ricky Stewart.
Ricky, oh yeah.
And nodded towards Gregory. Push him in, Blocker said. What, Stewart said? He said, when he goes to feed the ball, push him in the scrum. Stewart shoved Gregory into the tunnel where he landed at Blocker's feet. By the time Blocker was finished, all that was left of Gregory was the left eyebrow and the tongue of his shoe. They called it even. Our plea to the National Rugby League is get the referees feeding scrums. That will bring the people back through the gates when they're open. Dennis, it's been a pleasure. Stephen, we miss you. Vonnie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, boys. Thank you. It's an absolute joy. You bring the wonderful oddities of rugby league to life, so it's a pleasure to be with you.
All the very best, and please send us a postcard from Tangalooma.
And go and feed your dog. Your dog's hungry.
I know, he's been bothering me for an hour.
See you later.
Thank you, boys.
You've been on Fire Up's Quite Australians.
Because I'm all fired up and lonesome. I got a chip on my shoulder, and I'm acting just a little too tough.